This is the Nico Lagan Show. Frankly, motivation is bullshit. What you need is discipline, and your mindset is the difference between success and failure. Warning. Warning. This show contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Real, raw, and shooting you straight. This is the Nico Lagan Show. And now your host, Nico.
And I agree wholeheartedly, right? And you said it more succinctly than I was going to...
Am I saying that it's right or wrong? I'm not saying that it's right or wrong.
I'm saying it's right.
What I'm saying is that's a fact.
And
whatever you feel about that fact still doesn't make it wrong.
And again, when it comes to the responsibility of what it is we're supposed to be doing, because here's the thing, you take a pedophile, and let's say, and I've run this experiment on another podcast, or I've explained this thought experiment on other podcasts. You take a serial killer, you take a pedophile, you take the bottom of the barrel, anybody that we would collectively call evil, evil, and you take them, and let's say that we put them in the middle of the woods, in a cabin, with the ability to sustain themselves, and from a satellite, we just watch them.
Yep.
That's a normal fucking person. There's nothing that they're going to do in that situation that I created that would imply any form of anomalous behavior deviance. Or pathological deviance.
Yep.
So it is all in context.
Absolutely.
So when I personally feel pedophiles should be put to death. If you have abused a child, you should be put to death. And people think that the reasons why they go about doing that should have something to do with the consequences that they suffer because of it. It's like, okay, this guy molested 10 children. He should be put to death. Hold up, Justin. He was molested over and over again by his mother's boyfriends growing up. That is tragic. That is terrible. And I will tell him I feel bad that happened to him right before he gets put to death.
But that doesn't excuse his behavior.
Because there is an accountability. And again, this is what I'm talking about, the relationship with nature. It's like, okay, that's bad, I guess. Okay, but understand our brains are the things that create these abstractions that we're trying to make peace with to begin with. Ultimately, this is a predator. We have children, we got to kill the predator.
Yep.
If there was a rabid dog, it would be put down. If there was a lion that escaped a cage, we're going to try and get back in the cage. We don't, got to be put down, because it doesn't speak about anything of the beauty of it. Doesn't speak about anything about it just following its own internal drives and instincts. That has nothing to do with it. Yeah, okay, I concede all that. He's still got to go because there's a consequence. And we have a society today that has no relationship with consequence. So they think that their positions are going to be improved or increased in strength by somehow winning debates, intellectual debates, or getting the support of a democratic support. Meaning I have more people. I have the majority of people that believe what I believe. Like, that has nothing to do with the consequence of it in reality.
But this explains where we're at right now too.
I've had, and I don't say this, it's not something I'm proud of. Like, I'm not nothing about it, but I've punched a lot of people in the face in my life. I grew up I just grew up in an area in a life that I punched a lot of people in the face. More than half of them, I will say, that after you hit them, they look at you in utter disbelief. Almost like it's somebody jumped out of a fucking television screen and touched them on a show they were watching. Because leading up to that moment, they never even conceptualized this was a possibility.
That they could be consequences to their actions.
Culturally, colloquially, we have this saying, oh, this guy acts like, he's never been punched in the face. Because we understand what that means. Maybe people just say it now, not understanding what it means. But it's really an introduction to consequences. Like, hey, you're going to act that way. There might be some fucking things you got to pay for about it. People today are completely disconnected from that, and they act accordingly. Like, think about it. What would we do if we never had to pay a consequence? You look at Saddam Hussein's kids.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. When kids are raised never getting a consequence, they could do literally whatever the fuck they want. History is wrought with royalty or extremely, wealthy, affluent people who are able to get away with anything. Hunter Biden may, have a couple of things right now that if anybody else did that shit, it'd be a whole different set of rules. But how does Hunter Biden wind up being Hunter Biden? Because he was never introduced the consequence. To this day, he still's not introduced to it. So I understand why he's like that. I could rationalize how he wound up that way, but that doesn't excuse him from the consequences that he should be experiencing. And that's what society doesn't have today.
But it's not his fault. He was raised that way. It's not his fault.
If it's not a kid's fault that they walked in the middle of the street, it doesn't mean the car's going to hit him any fucking less hard.
As 5 kilometers from my place, I'm driving. I have an F-150. I'm driving.
Kilometers? What's that in miles?
3.5 miles. 60%. I'm driving an 8,500 pound, so about 2.2 thousand kilos trailer behind me. There's this kid that was on his phone not paying attention, and the trailer literally eats line to line. Like, I'm in my line and I need to stay in there. I almost hit him. Not even 10 minutes in the trip. No, he's on his bike looking at the ground. And I'm looking at him in the mirror. Like, I pass him and I'm like, whoa, bro. And I'm fucking screaming in the car. I'm like, what the fuck? Never looked. I don't even know if he realized. And you know how close it went? Inches. I'm talking 2-3 inches. He's not surviving this. His brain would have been splattered on the side of the. Yep. But you're absolutely right. Mike Tyson says it well. We've become accustomed to not getting punched in the face, and he's absolutely right. There's a dude. I don't fucking know why he follows me, but he loves to troll me all the time. And the other day, I'm like, you know what? I enjoy trolling him too, so I think it's funny. But I told him, I'm like, I looked at his pictures. He's this scrawny little kid. I'd say 5'6", 125 pounds, soaking wet, and he's a ghost hunter. That's what his page says on Instagram. And I just responded to one of his comments. I'm like, I'm curious. If you'd meet me in real life, would you have the balls to say the things that you say right now? Because right now you're a keyboard warrior. You know that there's no consequences. And he starts calling me kiddo. He started calling me kiddo. Start telling me how in real life he'd destroy me. And this reminds me of exactly that. Not only are they oblivious that consequences will happen one day, they've grown knowing that, so they believe that they are better than the consequences. They believe that consequences not only will not happen, but if they did happen, they would be prepared to deal with them. This is what scares me. That is fucking scary.
Right.
Knowing not only are you so oblivious that consequences are a reality, but you believe that because you'll be able to deal with consequences if ever they would ever to happen. Absolutely fucking amazing.
I agree.
It's I understand why Jordan Peterson is sad sometimes.
I think that when looking to understand how people got this way, I like using my aquarium, metaphor to explain it, because we have to concede that these formulas work for them in the aquarium. Because they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't produce the result they wanted.
But in a artificial situation, exactly, in something that is not the sea, that is not the ocean, where every little aspect is controlled, yes, but it is still an experiment. It is still not real.
When you hear about, and these stories are endless, people wandering into the wrong neighborhoods, or people going into natural situations unprepared for bears and the like, or cats, or like you're hearing a bobcat stealing kids on trails and stuff, and it's like, well, what the fuck did you think? What do you think? People that go and they want to observe polar bears and shit like that. Are you fucking are you out of your fucking mind?
I had a guy a few years ago rent my cabin, calls me up in the middle of the day. He's like, there's no heating here. What am I supposed to do? I'm like, there's a massive fireplace with a bunch of woods. There's an axe there if you want to make smaller pieces of wood. There's newspaper so you can light it. There's the lighter. It's like, yeah, I don't know how to start a fire. I'm like, bro, you rented a log house in buttfuck nowhere. What the fuck were you thinking? Like, seriously, like, I have bears there's deers that literally you could feed them. They're so oblivious to what we are. You could feed the deers because they're not scared of you. They don't fucking know what you are. They're like, yeah, there's food. But people come there without understanding that you have to somewhat know some things in order to survive. Like at one point.
And nobody's ever told them that. In my book, I have something called the tribal regulation scale.
Yeah, sure.
And what it is how a tribe disincentivizes deviancy, right? And it's the saying goes, I mock you, so I don't punish you. I punish you, so I don't exile you. I exile you, so I don't kill you, but I will kill you to save the tribe.
Sure.
And that escalation, the first part of that, the mocking, that's the feedback. It's the feedback, the early intervention feedback that allows people to see that, oh, maybe I'm going off road here for a second. Yeah. Like, let me get back on track. And like that guy, like, but it's a business setting, so you are limited in how
I just reimbursed him. Literally,
you're a better man than me.
My 4.9 stars on the 5.
I would have told him, well, if you cut, one of your arteries, your blood is going to be very warm. It'll probably warm you up.
Or piss your pants, bro.
Right. You could ask your husband if he knows how to start a fire. You could, you could try crashing.
You're such an ass.
Try crashing your vehicle into one of the trees outside, and it might explode, and that'll start a good fire.
Yeah.
Because he needs to be mocked, and he needs to be mocked because it's like, how do you say something in a way that somebody's affected to where they're like, maybe I should be embarrassed to say this out loud.
But you know what? See, I go a step further than that, where my peace of mind is not worth him.
He's not your tribe, and this is my point.
And he's oblivious.
And one of the points
even if I would have told him, I'm like, hey, bro, I'm gonna help you out here. Mm-hmm. I will have my girlfriend hold my cell phone. I will build a fire for you. I will show you how to do it, and I will send it to you so that you can learn something. That guy would have just said, I want to go somewhere else. This is too hard.
And here's, it touches in another aspect of what I talk about. We should invest in people.
Yeah.
Now, if there's no return on investment aside from catharsis, we call that charity. So now here's the thing. We have a dysfunctional level of charity in this society because people want to invest in people where there's no return. And people say, yeah, but that's not what it's about. I don't help people because I expect something back. Well, I'll say, well, how many people can you help then? Because if you don't get something back, it's unsustainable.
Yep.
I remember when I was first starting a school, like I started doing very well in business, and I got, a bunch of students, a couple hundred students, and there were smaller schools, who would, chastise me and, it's, I'm a real instructor. I don't, this isn't a business. And I would ask them, I'm like, well, how many students do you have? 50. Do you help those 50 students? Yeah, I help them. What hours is your school open? 4 to 8, Monday through Friday. Okay, you're helping 50 people every day with martial arts. I have 400 students in my school. We're open 7 days a week. I'm open morning, noon, and night during the week.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is helping more people, you or me? And that's what people don't understand. They want this status of being this benevolent person, but they want to completely excuse themselves from the accountability of actually being accountable or the utility of actually doing something that works. It's like, oh yeah, I sent money to Africa. You remember a couple years ago, it was like Save the Kids. There was like Boko Haram went and like stole a bunch of kids and people were sending money. It's like, who the fuck are you sending money to?
Yeah, those kids are not there anymore.
Like, but no, it's catharsis. I do this and I feel better. Yep. I do this so I can tell people I did it. It's a fucking status tool. That's what it is. There's no sincerity. There's no authenticity. You want to help somebody? Like I remember when
Go build a school over there. You want to
go build a school. Tim Kennedy, MMA fighter,
and ex-military.
Ex-military went. He had a bunch of allies in
Yep.
Afghanistan when he served, and when the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, one of Biden's fumbles.
Beautiful strategy.
He went and put his ass on the line
Yep.
and went to go save the people that he worked with, the people that he built alliances with. Like the politics, the geopolitical, that had nothing to do. He's
Fuck
like, I know
that.
this guy
Yeah.
and his family. I'm going to go and fucking help him.
Yep.
That's what authentic, the charity is. That's what authentic actions are. You want to help somebody. Where's the accountability? People want to sort of like, use, if you've studied Jung, Joseph Campbell, right? The monomyth and,
Yep.
the hero's journey
Yep.
and whatnot. Well, the thing is, people want to be heroes, but they want to be heroes, but they don't want to slay dragons.
Of course.
I want to slay something, and I want to call it a dragon after the fact, and then I want to be treated like a hero. If you want to do something heroic, which we should all aspire to do and be in our own individual lives, there needs to be something that is represented by the dragon, which represents risk. It represents a threat. It represents a vulnerability.
Yourself.
An exposure.
Yourself.
Right? It exposes all of that. And that is what we need to endure before we could be deemed a hero by the people around us. Well, we have a society now that people think changing their profile picture to black for Black Lives Matter somehow has them help black people, or now the Ukrainian flag,
Yep.
or whatever else the social meme is telling them is the thing that's going to give them access to that status. They think they're doing real work. And my whole thing is like these people, and I would advocate for people who are listening to me, like we don't have time for those people, because we could sit here for hours, and we have like. Talking about how useless these people are, talking about how their formulas just don't match up to what it is they're saying they're trying to accomplish. But ultimately, it is, are you building a proper relationship with yourself?
That's all it comes down to.
Are you the alliances you build? Because sometimes individuals, they have such an underdeveloped relationship with themselves that their state is in flux constantly. They're angry, they're sad, they're happy, they're depressed, they're all over the place. And I would ask, well, how is it if you have all of these seemingly polarized versions of you, when you build an alliance with somebody, which one of those individuals that you are they building an alliance with? How honorable are you being to that alliance if you can't even get yourself to the point where you're stable? Which can't happen if you don't have a relationship with yourself. So it has to start with you, because that's how the alliances build.
It always starts and ends with you.
That's what it is. So,
but that means you need to admit that you have problems. You need to admit that you're faulty. You need to admit that you're a fuck up. You need to admit that you will fail. You need to accept that.
That's right.
And unfortunately, holding a mirror to yourself is not something that people want to do.
Right.
It's easy to point the fingers and blame. It's the victim mentality. This is an issue. This is one of my biggest problem with society is people are victims. People are victims. They blame everybody else
because
except themselves.
Works. In the aquarium, it works. When you're a victim, you out-victim each other. You get status. It works. And this is what we need to understand. If we don't have a filter.
But isn't it amazing when you look about it? Because people just, all they want to belong. If I'm a victim, I'm going to belong with other victims. But
approval of strangers.
But the most amazing thing is once you start surrounding yourself by people that are what you want to become, you don't have a choice to become that person, or else they'll cut you off. And it's okay. That to me is direct feedback loop. We all possess the tools to be better. But first, it needs to start with ourselves and admit that we're faulty.
And the people, piggybacking on one of those points you made, which I think is a very important one.
I appreciate that.
When we, absolutely. No, you've been saying some good stuff. When you have an individual who you trust, who you give permission to check you when you need to be checked.
Yep.
That is like an invaluable mirror that you have access to.
Yep.
Because there will be people who they have some power. but they don't know how to take it. And it is important that every individual, myself included, I have people that will call me, that will go, hey, Justin, you're fucking up in this. Let me show you what I saw. Let me give you some feedback.
Yep.
And sometimes, and I am completely honest when I say I would be listening to them white knuckling, and I'm like, just shut up and listen, because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable when somebody's calling you on your shit.
Yeah.
But I am not fucking perfect. And there are certain people in my life who I've given permission to.
That's their role.
It's and sometimes it's an unsaid role. It's understood that I respect this guy so much, because what happens is when you really care about somebody, there's a risk for the individual. If he's going to tell you about yourself and he knows you don't want to hear it, it's like, I'm going to tell this dude, but I care about him too much. I got to say it. And if that guy punishes him by removing or modifying that relationship, he is cutting off his lifelines.
You know, that makes me think of a situation that I found myself in one day, where I knew this girl that got cheated on. I knew she got cheated on by her boyfriend, and I have a relationship with both. What do you do?
In that situation?
But the thing is, it's the same thing. Do you owe... Because if I respect you, if I love you as a person, I'm lessening you. I'm making you less by not helping you, even if it makes it uncomfortable for me.
I agree. I laugh at the example. I agree with the sentiment, because my whole thing is, don't ever be friend with somebody's girlfriend. Go on.
I agree. Friends is a hard word.
You can be friend with the girl, you can be friend with the guy, but don't ever tell yourself you're friends with both, because when that happens, what do you do there in that situation?
The word friend should be, I tend to use the word friends for most people so they understand what I'm talking about, but I can count on one hand.
Your sentiment I agree with, though.
But all I'm saying, it's a direct example that most people can relate to, saying that, what do you do if you have two acquaintances that you respect that are in that situation? What do you do? But most people don't want to be uncomfortable. This is the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
Is you need to approach somebody. You either lie, which most people do.
Right.
Or you're upfront and you will risk the relationship for their better. For them to become better. For them to at least know what the issue is.
You got to check them.
Exactly.
And you got to check them.
This is an example that's easy for most people to understand, because you can see that happening.
Right.
But it's harder to have that with one-on-one relationship, like you and I, for example, or you with somebody else. Putting somebody in check is not necessarily... I do it as a coach too. It's not necessarily something I don't enjoy doing it, but I do it because I know you'll be better for it. And if you're not...
It's sort of our job.
And not only that, but if you're not, we're not meant to work together. Right. If you cannot take that, why the fuck are you paying me in the first place? Why if I can't check you, why the fuck am I here? This is my job.
We were talking earlier about one of the things that I do in my coaching program is I charge an amount for a block of sessions. Mm-hmm. And it's for a lot of people, it's a pretty penny. And I know that, having done this as long as I have, that I need that leverage, because that first session or two is not going to be comfortable for them.
Yep.
And I'm not somebody, I don't see... I think it's worth noting, and I get this from you too, I don't play a character. Like, I'm like this all day long, every day.
Who you see now is me.
Yep. And when I'm giving people feedback and going, yeah, that doesn't match, or that doesn't do this, and well, why should your kid respect you if you're doing that? And I'm asking, it's not a character that I'm playing, but I'm definitely giving him the opportunity to get feedback that clearly nobody in his ecosystem nor his tribe has ever given him.
Yep.
And that's the value that I have. But for some people, and I even make the joke in my sessions, I know it's not comfortable. That's why I had you give me all that money up front. Because if you decided to tell me to go fuck myself, this is the most expensive hour you've ever paid for in your life. But the thing is, that is the leverage that I need to get people who have not been coachable their whole lives, who have never been receptive to this. Because sometimes it's not even an individual rejects, the value of other people's opinions or feedback that he cares about. It's that they might not even have those people. So they don't have any reps of listening to feedback.
I think
so it's uncomfortable.
But I think this is the biggest thing. I think right there you're hitting the head on the nail on the head. Sorry, that's my French for you.
No, I got you, bro.
It's the fact that we're not surrounded by those people, and naturally today in your aquarium, as you like to describe it, we're not really looking for them either.
Because we don't need it.
No, because
and this comes
everything
down to the
else
utility. That's
is
right.
Artificially controlled. All the temperature and the lighting is perfect. So why do you need it?
I had a podcast episode. It might have been an article, whatever. One of those things. Some piece of creativity.
You
I put
said
out there.
something.
I said
somewhere.
something. But the title of it was "Loners or Losers."
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I grew up, you ever read comics as a kid or anything?
Sure.
So I was a huge Wolverine fan. And the thing about Wolverine,
Same hair too, huh?
right? Short, stocky, hairy dude. There's obvious reasons, right? But a component of who he was that really resonated with me as like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, however I was at the time, was that he was a loner.
Yep.
Because my experience was he was so cool because he didn't need anybody.
Yep.
And he didn't have to rely on anybody. And if he got hurt, he could heal himself.
Yep.
And he could do whatever he wanted. And he was, no matter what happened, he was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of like childhood things that I'm like, those are the superpowers I want. But I realized as I went on in life that loners are losers in that there is no way that we are ever going to be aware of everything that is affecting our life. And when we recruit people who a part of them feeling good is making sure that we're good and vice versa, obviously, without that, we are always going to have a limited amount of exposure to what exactly is affecting our life. And a loner is somebody that can only exist one generation or in an aquarium.
Yep.
Which means they're also unnatural. Mm-hmm. The guy that just wants to be by himself, listen, everybody can do what they want. I'm just saying as an archetype, like advocating for being a loner. Like that is an unnatural way to be, which means we evolved developing relationships, synergistic relationships with the people around us so that we could not only become better as individuals, but adding some utility to that term, it's so that we could survive.
But we are group people either way. Human beings are meant to belong. They're meant to be with people.
We were tribal a lot longer than we've been aquarium pets.
The only problem, though, and that's...
Only problem. Oh, God.
I don't know, but the biggest problem
All right, there you go.
is that...
Multivariate, remember.
Well, above 150 people, that tribal fractions.
Dunbar's number.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. After 100...
I've spoken about it extensively.
But it is a brilliant concept that explains why society never works.
So
above a certain number,
the way I
it will
explain
never
that
work.
concept, being as controversial as I tend to be, is I say, I usually say the starving African kid with the flies going around his head.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck about him, which is harsh. And I have the dramatic pause.
But it
and
is.
all the women are like, usually
It is
when I say
harsh,
that, and I say, and the reason why is because I run out of fucks before I get to him.
Yep.
And anybody that they say that says they care about him is full of shit.
Yep.
Because you can't. We don't have the capability, nor the resources, the bandwidth. Like, this is not how we operate. Mm-hmm. So, ironically, I wrote the book Tribalnomics. One of the things that Tribalnomics is geared towards is empowering an individual with the ability to maintain alliances, to build and maintain alliances. Because when there is some structure to how we engage other people, there is sustainability, there is synergy. We remove the need for emotion to fuel this connection.
There's a very easy concept that explains it that says, if you do not know that person's name personally, he is not an acquaintance, you do not get to interact with him physically, you don't give a fuck. Yeah. And this is the biggest... That's why they say about 150. Because we can only interact with about a maximum of 150 people on a daily base, on a weekly base. And unless you interact with them, you don't care. So as soon as that happens, the only way to sustain that society is to be artificial.
Right.
But again, this is something we don't like to hear today. Mm-hmm. You can't be a loner, but you can't be that popular either. Right. It's... Oh, fuck. It's the middle way. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It always comes down to... I think my biggest word is awareness. Is being aware of what I am, who I am, and the society that I am, and what role do I play in that society. Because I like to be the joker. I like to be the guy that jokes about things, which is why I'm such a fan of comics. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedians. Guys like Dave Chappelle. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but the way he says it is fucking brilliant.
He's a great comic.
But
Do you think women could be good comics?
Shit, this is brutal what I'm going to say. I was having this conversation with my girlfriend 2 days ago.
I'll put you on the spot.
Oh, no, but that's okay. I have no shame in saying it, but I find it interesting that you're saying that because I've never heard of a funny woman. I've heard women that were funny skids. They have parts that are funny.
Women can tell good jokes.
But I have never heard a 40,
which is different.
I've never heard a 45-minute presentation or however a show, let's call it a show, where I was laughing. I've seen a lot of stand-up comedian live. I love those small shows where you pay good money to go, where the comic can make fun of you. And how many times have I sat there in the first row?
I grew up going to comedy shows in New York City.
And I'm cringing. The woman's telling joke, and I'm like, oh shit,
They're always terrible.
Get off the stage, get off the stage, get off. And I was asking my girlfriend a couple of days ago, it's fucking funny you're bringing that up, but have you ever heard? I'm looking, my Facebook reels or my Instagram reels are either dogs fighting, very masculine subject, or comedians. That's about all the videos I see. But once in a while, there's that woman comedian that shows up, and I'm just cringing. And I asked my girlfriend, I'm like, do you think she's funny? She's like, yeah, no. And I'm like, have you ever heard a funny woman? She's like, I've heard women that were funny, but never a 45-minute long.
It's just not their thing. It's just not their thing. Let me ask you, who's your favorite comic of all time?
Favorite comic of all time? George Carlin was great.
Give me three, because one is it's a little
But you know what? I'd say George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, and I was a big fan of Russell Peters. He comes from and all very different reasons, but we make too much. This is fucked up what I'm going to say, but we make too much of racism because we want to belong. So I like a guy like Russell Peters that makes fun of racism. I like George Carlin because the only way he could explain his points that were so obvious and non-optimistic, like they were very pessimistic points, he had to make fun of it in order to people to even begin to grasp the concept. Because, in history, the Joker was the only... People don't understand that jesters have been around forever.
Oh, I know.
And you know what the job of a jester is? Is to make fun of the king. He's the only person in that fucking kingdom that is allowed to make fun of him. And that's why he's there. To me, that's George Carlin. He was able to look at something and just say, this is how it works. This is why it's fucking stupid. But let me tell a joke in order to make it easy for you to understand, because you're not going to pay me to just hear one bad thing after a bad thing like Jordan Peterson does. And I love Dave Chappelle. I've always been, since his Dave Chappelle show, the black supremacist, that's a black racist guy that is blind and doesn't know that type of comedy did not exist until him. He changed the way he puts a concept that is so dramatic and is able to spin it funny, but he still pisses off people, and it makes me fucking laugh because you know what? He does not give a fuck if you think he's funny or not.
Right.
I respect that. He will be, and there's that guy from New York. You probably know him. He's big friends of Joe Rogan. Tall, skinny guy. Fuck, I don't remember what his name is. I'll try to remember.
Schultz,
exactly.
Andrew Schultz.
Oh, fucking love this guy.
He's good.
This is a recent, only within the last year or so have I been aware of this guy. Fucking love a guy that laughs at his own jokes. He does jokes and he's very quick. He's very witty. Like he likes to fuck with the audience. He'll say something, audience comes back and he's like, really? Really? He just rips into you. See, but those three I would say are my top three at least.
My favorite comedian of all time is Patrice O'Neal.
Okay.
Patrice O'Neal was somebody who I feel like I had a lot of shared experience with. You don't
know him.
No.
Okay.
But I'm a tall black guy also. But he's somebody who
couldn't be further from short white guy. Nice.
So,
nice.
You have the thing with Patrice O'Neal is he's a city dude, a hood dude. He's so he has that urban thing which I resonate with. I can relate to. And what I like about him is that he was usually the smartest, the quickest, but also the ballsiest.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I have a disdain for comedians who won't say the thing.
Yep.
that'll hurt the most, but the thing that'll get the biggest laugh.
Yep.
Because it might offend somebody. Like that thing. And he was fearless when it came to that.
And this is the best quality in the comedian. And that's their job.
Right.
You should never... I'm a big proponent of free speech. I believe that anything is allowed to be said. No matter what I feel about it, it should be said.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be able to say what they want to say. Now, as an intelligent person, it is up to me to see the difference between what I believe in and what I don't. But it's not because I don't believe in something that they're not allowed to say it.
Right.
And a comedian is responsible for taking subjects that are so controversial and so serious, spinning them on their head and just be funny about it. Because this is more palatable for most people. Oh, oh, wait, what the fuck? What the fuck did he just say?
Right.
Was I supposed to laugh at this? Like, what the fuck's going on? This is why I like Dave Chappelle so much, because he does that all the time. You laugh, and then you're like, okay, hold on. What the fuck did he just say?
Right.
And supposedly, I know somebody that knows him in real life, like he lives in the same area, and supposedly he's a great dude. As an individual, supposedly Dave Chappelle wants to be left alone.
Right.
He wants to be calm. And who walks away from $50 million, the biggest paycheck ever proposed to a comedian back then, just because, one, he was losing the rights to his stuff, and he also said that people didn't get his jokes. They were laughing for the wrong reason. So he's like, you know what? Walked away from 50 mil.
As with anybody, like a guy like Dave Chappelle, who is one of my favorite comedians.
Yep. Another tall black guy.
Another tall black guy. Tall black guy. My third favorite's a basketball player now.
Yeah.
The thing with Chappelle is he's somebody who is willing to stand up for who he is and when he
literally
believes.
Stand up.
But like not the representational standing up of where he offers some sort of like rejection, but still ultimately succumbed. Like, no, he walked away from a lot of fucking money. He said, fuck away. Patrice O'Neal, same thing.
And it's by principles.
That's right. And there's something to be said for, like we explained before, like I've made good money in my life.
Yeah.
I've never done anything for the pursuit of money alone.
By principle.
But I've always said, and I've been sued before. I one time got sued by this guy because I had written my opinion of somebody online, and somebody from his camp sent me a message and said, if you take that down, we're good. If you don't take that down, we're coming after you.
Physically?
Well, definitely not physically, but legally.
So off. What a bunch of
And
pussies.
so what wound up happening was, like, I pretty much was like, well, I'm not taking it down, especially now.
Yeah.
And I got sued for a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Cost me a bunch of money. Would I do it again?
You lost?
When you have your insurance covers a settlement,
you don't.
There's a certain point where they're like, okay, you can keep fighting this on your own.
Yeah.
And there's a certain point to me, it was like,
not worth it anymore.
Like it doesn't.
So
even
you
matter.
bought the piece.
Yeah. So for me, it's money means nothing to me when it comes to my principles.
Yep.
The way that I handle myself over these years on social media. I had an interview. This is a decent bit of trivia. My co-host, right, one of my students, one of my good friends, White Boy Pat. He and I, we had the Pressure Project podcast back in, I think it was 2015, 16, maybe when it first started.
Yeah.
I think, it might be 14, but whatever.
Age with age.
We had a huge, we forgot everything because it's not worth anything.
Yeah.
Too much shit that's worth the shit to remember.
Yeah.
So our following, was really, really exploding in the beginning. And it culminated in one of the guys that was listening reached out to me and said, hey, I'm a assistant producer for Discovery Studios.
Fuck, not
And
bad, huh?
we, I want to pitch a show with you and White Boy Pat, basically taking a man and having an episode of where, we look at his life, we put him through some process, and then it culminates in him doing something at the end that shows that he's better off. And I went down there and to the studios and got interviewed. And during the interview, there was a point where it's like the person who was asking me the questions it's just doing their job, like I don't hold anything against them, but it was, they could have literally asked me, are you willing to sell your soul for a TV show right now? It would have
been the same thing, yeah.
And I was like, nope. And so at the end of the interview, they were like, oh, we'll let you know it was a great interview. Thank you. And I knew what happened. Pat knew what happened. At the end, I said, listen, at least we're going to go to a fucking awesome restaurant right now and have a great steak.
Yeah.
Right? So we went and ate at a great steakhouse in the city, and I just knew what was going to come of it. And it just, I always knew, I know enough. I'm connected to enough good people that I know no matter what happens to me, I'll always be able to get back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something to be said for doing it the whole time without selling out. Doing it the whole time without selling your soul. Doesn't mean like, hey, I'm a copywriter. I'm a marketer. I teach sales. Like I understand. I've trained extensively in NLP and sales training and methodologies and all these different things. That's me honing my craft, But that has nothing to do with taking advantage of people.
That's a very
for
big
money.
But that's a big misconception.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
especially
thing
in
is,
LP, is a very big misconception.
Right. And the thing is, we're affected by these things anyway. And I just want to do what I mean to do. Whereas some people never get to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And I think when you train in sales, when you train in NLP, and you train in any sort of ability to communicate effectively,
yep,
it really just allows you to overlap what you want to do and what you're actually doing. Like what you want to say and what you're actually saying, what you want the result to be and what the actual result is. Like those things, you just find a way to bridge that gap. If you're an asshole, you'll become a more powerful asshole.
Yeah.
But if you're a great person, you will be able to do more good because of it. Ultimately, though, like I'm somebody who I need to sleep at night and I don't give a fuck about money. Over the years, like anybody that's been in a leadership position or I've employed many people. I've had a school for 20 years, so I've had, thousands of students at this point. I've had a lot of people sort of leave on not the best of terms.
It happens.
But every single one of them, not one of them could say that I took advantage of them.
Yep.
Usually it's they didn't ultimately get what they want and they left to get it someplace else,
And it's,
and I'm okay with that, So nobody could say I took advantage of them, even though it could be argued that they certainly got the better end of the deal.
Nick Castiglia is one of the reasons I respect him the most. I was in my early 30s. I started fighting. I fought amateur about 12 fights, give or take, just because I wanted to. Just because I wanted to prove it to myself that I wanted to go through it. I was scared shitless every time, but I really did it because it scared me. And at one point, I was with, you remember Owama? Like do you know
Sure.
Nick from there?
Yeah.
So they had like fucking 6 school. They have fighters. They had students all over the place. And I'm like, bro, I sat him down, him and I'm just like, bro, I'm going to go somewhere else. No disrespect to you. No disrespect to the school. I'm not getting what I want. I'm getting older. I wanted a fighter's gym. Mm-hmm. Owama, as much as they had fighters, was not a fighter's gym.
Right.
So I went to a fighter's gym and I fought multiple times afterwards. But it takes a man to sit down with that person. And although we might disagree, there's always going to be a respect between Nick and I because I told him what I had to say and he understood. He's just like, bro, I get it. I'm not happy that you're leaving, but you're doing it for you. And this is a principle I'm trying to teach my girlfriend, especially right now with her job and her not having to work anymore. But she's in a way that she wants to bring in somewhat money for herself. She doesn't want to be dependent on me 100%. So she's allowing her job to kind of take advantage of her. But recently I'm trying to make her understand that no matter what, any given situation, I'm always ready to walk away. Mm-hmm. No matter the situation, I do not care. I'm always ready to walk away.
I'm going to give you a saying that you could, because I agree. I don't say it as eloquently. I say I always reserve the right to tell anybody to go fuck themselves.
I'm Canadian. I'm a bit more polite than you are.
That's how you say it in Canadian. That's how you say it in the Bronx. What I would tell your girlfriend, and it's something that I've written and spoke about extensively, is loyalty is an investment, not a debt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right.
If you did something for me with the expectation of me having to give it back to you, then you should contract me to that obligation before you give it to me.
Yeah, there should be an understanding.
But if you invest in somebody in a way that they don't wind up giving you the return that you want, That's not on them. That's on you.
Yeah.
If
absolutely.
you expect something back,
Absolutely.
have the wherewithal, the authenticity, to the transparency even, to articulate that to them. I'm going to do this for you, but you got to give this to me. And if they say, okay, that's a debt now. We've contracted a debt.
Yep.
But if you're good to somebody, or even the worst, more common version of it, you've just been around for so long. Like, how could you leave? You've been here for so long. As if one thing is an argument for the other.
Yep.
It's like, what do you mean? I remember once I had an employee. He threatened to quit. I said, "Why are you going to quit?" Because I need a raise. And I asked him, I said, "Why am I supposed to give you a raise? Well, why should I give you a raise?" He says, "I've been here 2 years and you've never given me a raise." I said, "So you want me to give you more money and reward you for not getting fired? Like, I'm already paying you for working.
Yeah.
What am I'm supposed to reward you for? Like, I don't get it." And I literally didn't get it at the point. People think loyalty is a debt. People think, well, he's supposed to be good to me. Why? Because I've been here. Because I've always like, I very begrudgingly coach my coaching students in their marriages, and there's a point where I tell them that I'm not the person that
psychologists does have their jobs,
and
they have their needs,
and I will say, and I wouldn't put it on, I wouldn't give it to the psychologists. It's really, I think that they need to take accountability sometimes, because you'll find people that just want to be told, like, just tell me what to do. And it's like, no, you want me to tell you what to do, so if it doesn't work, you could still not take responsibility.
Yeah, it's
right?
going to be your fault.
So it's more of that thing. But point being, sometimes they, you have these guys that they have these wives, and these wives, she doesn't want to do this for me anymore. She doesn't, and it could be anything from, just fucking taking care of the house, cooking. It could be sex related, it could be, and I always ask, like, what's in it for her? And more oftentimes than I would like, but what usually happens is they say, well, she's my wife. That's her job. And it's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah,
like
taking somebody for granted.
Like, you think she would, because remember, here we go. Now we're touching on what I love.
Yeah.
When you're entitled, you cannot be gracious.
No.
Entitlement and gratitude are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Agreed.
I said, your wife's not doing that because she doesn't feel like you're grateful for her, because you're entitled.
Yep.
And when you're entitled, when you treat somebody as you're entitled to their participation, it's very restricting. People can get very, very uncomfortable, very claustrophobic in those situations. Show gratitude, because when you show gratitude, you remind them that you're still a good investment. And that's what allows them to expose themselves to invest, to be vulnerable, to do the things that maybe they are not, that's not their preference, but given the opportunity of seeing you as an investment, they're willing to invest. So loyalty is an investment, not a debt. And I can't leave them. Why? Because they count on me, they rely on me. That is nothing. Did you contract yourself? Are they in that contract? Are they fulfilling their end of the bargain? Are they there's a certain point where it's like everything comes to an end. I have a program called the Alliance Codes, and the two basic tenets of how to maintain or manage good alliances is you respect number one, which is honor the mission. You guys are allied for a reason. Pay attention to that reason and honor it. Make sure you're investing in that. But number two is respect the expiration date.
Yep.
People change over time. We evolve. We become better. We become worse. We at least become different. And at some point, the two people in an alliance are so different from the people that allied in the first place that they have to go, hey, man, it's been real. Yep. And then you downgrade the alliance. You build the bridge of communication. You leave it open. Nick introduced us, right? But you don't train at Nick's school anymore, right? But you guys still maintain an alliance. It's downgraded, and here you are now. Now here you are sitting in some guy's house in Pennsylvania that's from the Bronx talking about something, because you maintained the alliance with Nick all those years ago. That's the way that alliances should be held. But there's a certain point where it's like, let's talk about the job, right? Your girlfriend's employer.
Yep.
They shouldn't want her to still work for them if they're caring about her, if it's fucking up her situation.
Well, this is what you're saying there. That's the interesting part, is that, so when we decided, we've been talking about leaving for 6 months now. Now that it's happened, the job is starting to realize that, because a lot of people, blah, 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 they're always thought, I'm going to do this. Even my boss didn't believe me. I've been telling him for a year, but it's a long-term plan. I had to put all my, it's a chess game. I'm putting all my pieces in the right place, and I did it. And now they're like, they're shuffling. They're like, what the fuck? How are we supposed to replace you? We don't have, it takes a year to train somebody to do her job. So even if they hired somebody now, their sales are going to be fucked for the next 6 months to a year. So now they want to retain her. They're like, would you work part-time? Because she gave, her last day's Friday, upcoming Friday, so 4 days from now. And now she agreed to stay for another 2 weeks to a month. And I was telling her, I'm like, okay, cool. Ask for the same salary to work a third of the time.
Why not?
I'm not, at this point, you're holding, they've understood, no, they understand your value, but most importantly, you have understanding of your own value.
That's right.
Now you're the one that's in power that realizes your worth. Name your fucking price. Because why? You're ready to walk away from it.
That's right.
It's that simple.
And they're also expecting her to not do the things that she would be doing if she wasn't still working. Mm-hmm. I had somebody ask me to come out to his place, other side of the country, for a month.
Yeah.
I want to do a workshop. I want to work on this. What would it cost for a month? And I gave him some ridiculous number.
Just to make it so ridiculous because you don't want to do it.
Well, if you were to pay it, I would absolutely do it.
But, but it's
like,
time away from
right,
your family.
course.
It's time away from
because
everything.
There's a cost.
Absolutely.
He wants to count the days that I'm there and what I'm going to do. It's like, no, motherfucker, but this month I'm not doing all these other things. Yeah. By the way, I have an income every month. And a lot of it has to do with me doing my sessions. So if I'm not doing sessions and I, make an arrangement with people where I'm going to be, off the grid for, for 3-4 weeks, like
there's consequences.
And the thing is, nothing happens in a vacuum.
No, of course
everything
not.
affects everything else. So part of your girlfriend's dilemma is she's also paying for working with them with what she would be doing if she weren't working for them.
This is the most amazing thing. I don't understand why people don't get this principle, but the only thing of value in life is your time. You cannot, and there's 4 types of people, the way they love others. Like there's 4 ways that people show love. Some it's touchy, some is with things, some it's, I don't remember the 4th one, but mine is with my time. Because I've understood this very long time ago. If I give you my time, this is the only resource that I have a limited supply of.
That's right.
I don't even know how much I have. So what else is more valuable than my time? Me choosing to be here is the biggest compliment I can give you.
That's right.
The fact that, and you know what? FYI, you might not know this, but the only reason we're in Cresco, the only reason we're in fucking Pennsylvania is because I was going to record a podcast with you. I had no fucking, what the fuck is Cresco, Pennsylvania? Yep. Really? To a Canadian.
You mean this wasn't on the way?
Works out that it actually is on the way to Virginia because that's where we're going. Right. But this is
and I agree.
This is the biggest fucking compliment. And the day you understand that the only thing of value you possess is your time, you stop giving it away to idiots.
And that's exactly, and I know you brought this up in relation to your girlfriend's situation.
It's just very easy. Everybody out there that is not as aware as they could be is an easy example for them to understand. Everybody's been in that position before.
Right. That's right. And when you have people, like the only thing that I trade money for time with, and I was just talking to my students on Sunday, yesterday, and I'm like, today's Monday, yesterday, and I was talking to them about this idea of trading time for money.
Yep.
And how, like, I'm a coach. That's what I am. Like I'm
that's
somebody.
Who you are. Yeah.
That's who I am. Like I have information. I'm always seeking information, and I'm always sharing information.
That's why you're here.
And that's what I do.
Yep.
And I said I've designed my life so that I could monetize.
Sure.
It in a way that it's sustainable. Mm-hmm. Got a wife, got 4 kids. Got a 165-pound dog.
You deserve to fucking make money for what you do. Absolutely.
And now here's the thing. What I explained to them was, when I go to the gym to work out, if I see somebody there who's fucking up, and I even talked about this earlier in the talk, like I start coaching them.
Mm-hmm. You can't
like
help
I can't help. If somebody needs help, I'm gonna go there. I'll be at on a line at a store, and somebody will bring something up. We'll start talking. Next thing you know, I'm like, well, and we're getting, and at the end of it, it's like, oh man, it's usually, hey, what's your book? What's this or what's that? Or thanks a lot. I'm so glad I ran into you. I had some lady her car break down. right outside my property here on the road the other day. And she was there. She was having a panic attack, full-on panic attack. And I went outside, and she's like, and I'm like, all right, I just want you to, so talk to her off the ledge, so to speak. Guy was like, all right, put the car in park. Okay, it stops. Good. That's even better. Why don't you get out? I'm going to get in here. I'm going to put it, off the road. And who you calling? I'm going to call my boyfriend. Okay, call your boyfriend. Let him know that you're good. You're off the road. Everything's fine. You're good here. I own this property. So nobody's complaining. You're good. Do you need something to drink? You're good. Started talking to you. Next thing you know, about an hour later, I'm out there. Rambo's out there. She's playing with Rambo. Her boyfriend's there playing with Rambo and everything. And at the end, makes me feel like $1 million. And this is why I do what I do. I get excited even talking about it. She's like, I ran into you for a purpose today.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, you don't understand. I told her, well, before you walk away, and I appreciate the gratitude, I got as much out of this as you did.
Of course you did.
And this is to me what it's about, but I can't help doing that with people. So I had to design a life where I could find a way. Alan Watts, our boy, one of his sayings, he says, the secret of happiness in life is getting paid to play. Get paid to play.
What you're saying is exactly what I would have done in that situation. I do this with everybody around me. It is who I am. There's no fighting it. There's no, might as well fucking embrace it. I can't change this. And it's a beautiful thing to know not your worth, but it's a beautiful thing to know what you were meant to do. If you believe in such a concept, believe it or not, I all believe we have passions, we have talents for certain things. It's up to us to understand what we are, create a life, as you said, that goes around our qualities. And that's mine too. It is something, this is one of the reasons why I was so interested in talking to you. Just to see if you can coach Nick. I'm very curious who the fuck that guy is, but that's what it comes down to. He told me I didn't see Nick for probably 6 years, because when I met Nick, he was about 240 pounds, fat. He's a 6 foot tall guy. He was a big man, massive tree trunk legs.
Big dude, yeah.
But he was fat. So I don't see him for 5-6 years. I do a podcast with him. I walk through the door. I'm like, what the fuck happened? He's 265 pounds. He's never going to be 8% body fat, but he's probably 15% body fat, but he's a humongous guy.
Looks like he can run through walls.
I think he can. Right. I don't think he looks like it. I think he can. So I had to meet this trainer. And that's how I met Janine, his personal trainer. This is basically what happened, but this is what amazing. Being able to find people that can mold or help mold great people, make them greater, I need to talk to those people.
Right on.
This is why I do what I do. It's I'm very holy shit, 2 hours and 6 minutes in.
Oh, holy shit. If you would asked me, I would have said, I don't know, what were we, 50 minutes?
Yeah.
Something like that?
2 hours and 6 minutes. We'll have to do it again. You're the type of guy that we can talk probably for days.
I love doing nothing more than this,
There's one thing I like to do. There's one thing I like to ask when it comes to the first time I speak with someone. And we're going to finish on this, but if you had the chance to talk to your 14-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Oh, you know what? It's so funny you asked this. I literally presented this type, little bit of a somewhat different, but the spirit of it to one of my coaching students, a week ago, and I think, if I had to, because I also know my 14-year-old self didn't listen. So it's like, what would I tell him? No, you ain't gonna fucking listen to me anyway. Yep. It would be, because the way I think formulaically, right? I'm like formulas. How would I, if that's a mission, get him to listen, and how would I do it? So I would have to go there, and I'd have to, look jacked, and because I'd have to earn his respect. Because at 14, I'd respect a motherfucker that looks like me right now, right? And then I would tell him, be grateful for it all. If none of this is going on, you'll never be worth a shit.
Yep.
But the other side of this, you're going to appreciate what it's given you. That's what I would say. I don't know if I'd listen to me at 14.
You probably wouldn't.
Probably wouldn't. But that is what I would offer. That was the value I would say that he would definitely benefit from, 14-year-old me.
He'd understand it later.
He would. As I do now.
Yep.
As I do now. You know,
Because sometimes that's all we need to hear is that it's going to be okay. It's that simple. You can't change I wouldn't have listened either. Right. But if somebody would have told me at 14, say, you know what? You think life's hard right now? Wait, motherfucker, it gets worse. But at the end of the day, you'll benefit from it all.
That's right.
That's it. It would
be grateful for the training.
Yeah, it would have hit me in my 30s. It probably would have taken me 15 years to understand. It would have came back to me in a dream, in a vision or something, and just say, my motherfucker was right.
Right on.
Man, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the... Thanks for receiving me in your place. I'm always humbled. I tend to be humbled when people invite me in their house because you don't fucking know me.
Hospitality is very important to me and my family. So
I saw that, and as I said earlier, it's incredible. It's what you're doing with your kids is very inspiring. I truly, truly value the way you seem to be raising your kids, and it's something I strive. I hope that I can do the same with mine.
Well, listen, you got 6 months on the road in a small ass trailer. Get it popping, brother.
Oh, it's man, it's just a matter of time. But it's always interesting. I believe everything happens for a reason. It's up to me to figure out why. And yeah, very humbling. Thanks again, man. Thanks a lot for your time.
Great talk. I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful for the chance.
Thanks, brother.
Right on.
You've been listening to the Nico Lagan Show. Nico has been involved in the martial arts for 20 years. He's a Muay Thai coach, focus coach, podcaster, and sought-after public speaker. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten some useful and practical information. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Nico Lagan and on YouTube at The Nico Lagan Show. See you next time.